Hello and welcome back to Square One Games. My name is Exonovan and this is my Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus personal play. If you guys remember, in a previous episode I talked about the fact that I failed my activate all alarms challenge, and that was actually right here. You can see that there was a captain below me which I shot and killed, and my goal here was to shoot all the little enemies first and then kill the captain, but for whatever reason the captain was in that room and I didn't see him. And then when the explosion went off, he died. And even as I'm playing right now, I thought that the alarm went off. So I went through the whole game thinking that I was doing my alarm challenge. And then, like I said, finally figured it out. And when I was editing that, I didn't. So I had to scrap that as part of the challenge. But I remember talking about that in a previous episode. And this is, in fact, when it all went down. And I want to say that there's maybe one more snuck in here somewhere. We'll see it as the gameplay goes on. I wanted to also talk about in this chapter, I remember when I was going through the game for the first time, I was testing the gameplay mechanics. I was like, okay, I'm going to go in and trigger every alarm. I want to see how many reinforcements come in and if they're infinite, right? And what I noticed up to this point, up to this chapter, was that they're not infinite. If you sound an alarm, there'll be so many enemies that come out. And we saw that in the previous episode there at the end. If you go back and watch episode 3, at the end there, where I was just sitting in one spot and the enemies kept funneling toward me, and I eventually killed them all, and then the captain met me on the catwalk and I shot him and killed him, and that was it. And that's happened in every area up till now. But in this area, and I could be wrong on this, but I remember getting into this area, I found one spot where I knew that I couldn't die. The enemies kept funneling toward me and I killed a ton of enemies. I mean, I sat there for probably like 10 minutes just killing enemies back to back to back to back, and they just kept coming. So if you guys know this, leave it in the comments. Does this area, at least the first part, not this part that I'm in right now, but that first section where the first two captains are, is that infinite enemies that spawn there? That would really help me out if I decide to do a Mein Leben walkthrough. Obviously, if I do a Mein Leben walkthrough, a lot of these areas we're going to do with the tomahawk and stealth. But I also want to make my walkthrough with the ability that if you get detected, you know where to go to kill the enemies, because trying to make an entire stealth walkthrough for a difficulty that has permadeath is a very dangerous proposition, because if the enemy is not where I say they're going to be, because the enemy rotations are a little bit strange sometime in this game, or you miss a tomahawk throw, which later on in this series, I'll show you a spot where I clearly have the red reticle on one of the enemy's legs. Like I'm only probably like, I don't know, maybe like 10 feet away. I'm fairly close for tomahawk range. And when I throw it, it hits the ground first and bounces up and hits him in the leg. Like it's the most retarded throw you've ever seen in your life. And it's not the way it should be thrown, right? There's other instances where I've thrown a tomahawk in the same proximity from an enemy and you know, hit them just fine. So I'm a little bit nervous about building a guy completely stealth to get through this game, because you can stealth a lot of these areas, guys. You can skip a lot of these areas, basically speed run some of these areas. Like, you don't have to kill all the enemies. And when you start thinking about the game on that level, it does make a Mein Leben run less scary, if you will. But for me to build a whole guide that way, that would be a tough proposition on a game that's this long. And like I said, has permadeath. So if I did it, I would probably show you a stealth way to do it, and then in certain areas where I feel like the stealth may not work 100% of the time, I would like to go in and do maybe a fallback position that you need to go to where you can shoot some fools, you know what I mean? Or I might just build the guide aggressive, or not aggressive, but with that sweet spot, you know what I mean? And just assume that not everybody's going to be able to get through the game stealth. I also have to figure it out based on how I feel when I play the game again. But I definitely don't think I would build it to be 100% stealth, because I think it's just going to be a little bit too dangerous for that to be a guide. Right here is very unfortunate. When I practiced this game the first time, I got through this pretty easily. This time I got low on health. I got 50 health right now, and there's some health right there to my left. And I'm a little bit nervous about trying to pick it up, because these dudes can shoot you if the angle is right. You can see the health right there just off the corner of there it is, right in front of me. I'm like, man, I want that health so bad. I only got 40 health. But I know if I sit right here, a lot of them will just come through this door. So I'm like, well, I'll just let them come through this door. I'll kill some of them, thin them out, and then I'll make my push toward the health. And I eventually do pick it up. But I end up being here for quite some time now. And this brings up another thing that I wanted to share with you guys about this personal play that I haven't mentioned yet. One of the other little, it's not really a challenge necessarily, but kind of in my head I was doing it. I said to myself, if I trigger an alarm, I want to kill all the enemies in the area before I push. Like, I don't just want to skip, you know what I mean? Because that'd be too easy. I want to kill everybody. So that's why you see me posting up in this room right now, working with my little 50 health, which is nothing. Like, that's like 2 or 3 bullets and I'm dead, and they shoot, you know, they're shooting automatic weapons at me. So it's gonna take a quarter of a second and I'm gone, right? I could have just skipped this and been done with it. I do want to say though that after this, when I run into the subway, I want to say that I just blanked out and just ran to where the dogs were. I think this might be the only section of this game that I like skip enemies, quote unquote. But for the most part, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm killing everybody that I come in contact with. That's every machine, because some of these machines can be skipped. Even the end of the game where you have to kill, I think it's like 6 robots, a bunch of enemies are running around, then these 2 massive machines come out. I even kill those little boogers. I'll show you how I did it when we get there. I did a little bit of strategy on that one, because not being able to upgrade my weapons, man, that's a big deal. Now I have never upgraded a weapon in this game to this date. I've played it twice. I did it on Am Death Incarnate, and I never upgraded the first time, never upgraded the second time. Okay, so I still don't know the true power of what it feels like to upgrade a weapon in this game. But since I filmed this, I've since went back and watched some people play the game and learned a lot about the weapon upgrades, because I'm like, if I do a Mein Leben difficulty, then obviously weapon upgrades is going to be very helpful, and I'm clueless as to really how they work because I've never been able to use them, right? I feel like that's going to be the edge that I would need to get through Mein Leben, because even in some of these situations, and I mentioned this back in episode 1, even in some of these situations where you find that sweet spot, you can be overrun by a ton of enemies at the same time, and you simply don't have enough. Well, you either don't have enough firepower to be able to take them out, or you're not doing enough damage because you're no weapon upgrades. But I was thinking, if I could go back and experience some of those combat situations again with an upgraded weapon or being able to dual wield, I'd be able to mow those people down super quick. You know, even if I was getting attacked by 3 or 4 guys at the same time, it wouldn't matter, because I would, like I said, I would have so much firepower in my arsenal that I would just be able to just decimate them. And speaking of a place in this game that you can skip, I was talking about that previously in this commentary. This is actually one of those spots. There's a enemy that shows up here, one of these robot enemies. I'm not even sure what the game calls them, guys. I didn't play Wolfenstein. What was it called? The New Order. I don't know if some of these enemies were in that game. And I didn't really spend much time in the menus or anything. Typically when I play games like this, I never go to the menu at all. So it may even tell you what the name of these enemies are in that menu. Some of you guys can clarify in the comments, but you can actually skip that section. Go ahead and flip the switch and just make it here. You can actually skip these 2 enemies as well, which if I did a Mein Leben run, I would definitely show you guys how to skip them. But of course, we're trying to kill everything, so I'm just going to kneel down in the back of this train and hit him with my flamethrower, or flame shot, if you will, and take them out that way. It's fairly easy. You just sit back here and hit them through this crack and take them out that way. But thanks again to all my patrons who are supporting me over on Patreon. You are keeping the dream alive. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you right back here in the next one. You guys be good.